Policies and policymakers can have a negative impact on ordinary innocent people. In Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 18, we learn of Herod's decision to kill innocent children that was motivated by fear and the threat of losing political power. Today, our guests will discuss the various political wounds and issues in the Central Valley in ways that Christians are being examples of peacemaking, transformation, and justice in the political sphere. Stay tuned. Welcome to Perspectives on Faith and Culture. I am Karen Crozier, and joining me today is Honorable Willis Jones, who is the California State President of BWAPA, Black Women Organized for Political Action. Welcome to the show, Dr. Willis Jones.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, Dr. Crozier.
Great. And our second guest is Trustee Eric Payne of the State Center Community College District, and who is one of the youngest elected officials in our area. Welcome to the show, Trustee Payne.
Thank you, Karen.
You are welcome. Now, as we think about the various policies and policymakers and decisions that are happening, what are some of the issues that you see that's impacting the people? Dr. Willis Jones, would you like to go first?
Well, I think one of the obvious ones that we are confronting right now is when we look at the national picture, which impacts every city, every county, every state, every jurisdiction in our country. And it's absolutely heartbreaking as well as atrocious that we have elected officials who care so little about the people they represent, so they say, and to have us in a predicament where it impacts everybody's lives, children, mothers, health issues, seniors. I mean, the people most vulnerable in our lives, and we're looking at people in so-called positions of power, playing with the lives of these individuals. I'm appalled by it. I am troubled by it. My spirit is hurt by the fact that we have people that would play their own power games in political politics over the lives of people that are going to be impacted so greatly. And all of us know people. I mean, we live every day. We see our families, our sons, our daughters, our nieces, our nephews, our grandchildren, our grandmothers, grandfathers that are being impacted by this. So it's very troublesome to me. And I think, again, it starts at the top, and it has just flowed throughout our entire country, including right here in the Valley. And so I think that's a paramount problem.
Right. Dr. Willis Jones, are you referring to the government shutdown?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you for the government shutdown, the impending, issues of terms about tax and what that's going to impact in terms of a financial situation. It is, for us to have people in office that say they care, and that's the thing, and they'll go back to their communities. We have people in Washington, D.C. representing our communities, and to have them come and tell us and get reelected on the grounds that they're taking care of our best interests, and yet they may or may not be a part of what is going on there is real critical. And so absolutely we've got to hold people accountable for the decisions they make regarding our lives.
Thank you. Trustee Payne, could you please share what do you consider to be some of the most pressing policies and decisions that are impacting the people locally?
Well, one of the decisions I think that just came down the pipeline, Ms. Woods talked a little bit of the horrific behavior from electeds from a national perspective, but there are some good things happening at the state level. Governor Jerry Brown just signed SB 440, Senator Padilla, which streamlines community college transfer rates to the CSU system. And so it really makes it a much more cost-effective way for students to transfer and continue their matriculation for a 4-year bachelor's degree.
Right, so you're saying now we have something that's redeeming that reality for so many years, 60 years or more.
Right.
students at the community college level were just dumped in the system, overlooked, and were not able to get what they needed to transfer into four-year universities.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So in light of that, what other things would you like to identify that is having a negative impact on the people?
Some things that are having a negative impact on the people. I think definitely when we look at the broader picture with the House and Congress, the government shutdown is drastically affecting, the people that we encounter every day: mom, dad, brother, sister, and you have. Our low-income communities are being affected by these decisions. One of the institutions from the government shutdown that has experienced catastrophic dismay has been the Environmental Protection Agency. Over 90% of their employees have been furloughed. And when you look at your built environment in your low-income neighborhoods, the contributing factors there, when you talk about air quality, when you talk about transportation initiatives that are taking place, those things hinder the everyday working family.
Yes.
So.
Yes, Dr. Willis Jones, I see your excitement there. You want to
ready
jump back
to
in there?
chime
Go
in
ahead.
if I
Go
can.
ahead.
Piggybacking on something Eric said, and we start talking about the impact on local communities. I look at, first of all, Fresno and many places in the San Joaquin Valley has some of the most troubling housing rates and foreclosures in the country. Unemployment is one of the highest right here in our valley. When we look at schools, we have one of the poorest and most uneducated populace of people dropping out of school here in the valley. Those are serious issues that impact the people that live in this community. So when we start talking about shutdown, you're shutting down the services of the people who need them the most. Looking at our children who are trying to get into programs to start them off, Head Start programs, that gives them the foundation that they need to move on. Let's just take it even, we talk about parks and environmental stuff. Right in our back door, Yosemite, one of the grandest national parks in our nation, shut down at a time when we need to be enhancing jobs and opportunities for our folks. So that all just trickles down. And we can go on, Karen, with a lot of other issues, but the impact is really fun. What we see, unless we're sitting in those seats, sometimes we don't feel the impact until later. But if you open your eyes and touch some people out here in our communities, in our churches, in our community centers, you see the drastic impact right now that's having on a lot of these people that we tend to oftentimes at the power level turn our backs on.
Right, and that is a nice segue, what you said, sitting in those seats. Both of you sit in seats of power in the political sphere. So please share how your particular faith commitments are able to deal with the various atrocities that we have named in ways that allow love, humility, patience, perseverance, and justice to prevail and to shape you in the midst of all the things that are swirling around you. Dr. Willis Jones, would you care to
It's what you do, and it's what you're doing now, is having a voice. You and I have chatted sometimes before off camera. Certainly Eric and I have seen each other and had a chance to talk. It's the people that you take your spirit with you. You don't let somebody else change who you are. The whole impact in my grounding philosophy is try to especially encourage young African American women and men, but particularly women who have not often expressed their voice. We cannot allow somebody else's voice to speak for us. My position is that if you're not a part of having a voice, then you're contributing to the problem. Because we're allowing other people, we're allowing those who are willing to stand up and speak out, to speak for us. And if they're not representing the values that we have, our Christian values, our belief, our soul, what we know is to be the right thing, then there's a vacuum. And I think that vacuum is what creates sometimes that vacuum even of silence, means that we are agreeing with what's going on, even though we might not necessarily do that. We don't always have the courage, as you were talking about at the open of the show, to stand up and speak our opinion and our voice, so we garner and organize the attention against some of these atrocities that are taking place.
So you talk about the ruma, the spirit that's within us that we
That's
bring
right.
to bear in this process,
That's
and
right.
to know that God is empowering us to speak in the
That's
midst
right.
of the moment.
That's right.
Trustee Payne, please share from your perspective in the seat that you sit in, how you allow faith to inform.
Well, I definitely allow faith to inform through the decision-making process. And being a newly elected, I'm 9 months into my seat, and I've learned that change takes time. Because you really have to pull all the pieces together if you really want the needle to move. And make some progress, and that you really have to map out the journey that you're going to be taking and what those priorities are going to be, because oftentimes you get convoluted with those other red button issues that come up, like the government shutdown and how they affect some of our decision making, but most importantly. I come at it and I look at it through a lens of love. Even when I sit on the opposite end of an issue with one of my colleagues, I know that even though when we're at the dais, we may disagree, but I know that by the time we get up and walk away from it, that we're still brothers and sisters, and we're a family and that we love each other. And I think those are the important things that we need to keep into account when you work with your peers and your colleagues to govern the people.
So it sounds like you're saying that how do we see each other as part of the human family, and those principles within our Christian faith tradition that help us to see that you are my sister, you are my brother, not necessarily my enemy I got to demolish.
Right.
And maintaining that. So when we look at how, can you give a specific example, starting with you, Trustee Payne, and a specific example of how your leadership has been able to move something forward in your faith, identity, and commitments?
How my leadership and faith. Well, I think definitely one of the things that I would identify is my ability to communicate and articulate. There are oftentimes some very challenging things that come to our board that impact the student body that I serve. And oftentimes student voice can be left out of that conversation, and those individuals that are going to be affected. And so most importantly, making sure that youth and young people have a voice at the table, and how they're going to be affected through these decisions and these processes.
Thank you for your response. We're going to have to take a break, and we will come back and hear Dr. Willis Jones' response and articulation of the particular issue that she has been able to move forward in light of her leadership in her seat of power. Please stay tuned.
For over 25 years, KNXT has been serving the people of the San Joaquin Valley with good family television that's just not available anywhere else. It's important for you, the viewer, to help support this valuable tool of ministry. KNXT needs to continue to grow and bring you important programming about your faith. But sometimes it's hard to stop and find the time. Make it easy. Go to knxt.tv and find out how easy it is to support your Catholic television station, KNXT TV.
Welcome back to the show. Today we are discussing how Christians are able to be a presence of healing and justice and hope in the political sphere. My guests today are Dr. Willis Jones, who is the state senator. Dr. Willis Jones is the California State President of BWAPA, Black Women Organizing for Political Action, and Trustee Payne, State Center Community College District. Dr. Willis Jones.
Yes.
We heard of Trustee Payne's particular push with dealing with how student voices are excluded and how he's able to champion that in his seat. Please share a particular issue of your leadership, of how you're able to bring that to pass based upon your faith commitments.
Thank you very much for asking that, Karen, because that's such an important question. And I first want to turn to my friend and colleague, and I almost want to say adopted son, Eric, for his service, because I think it's so important, one, for us to recognize that young people can make a difference. We always put them in the background and think, well, we're going to prepare them for eventually taking leadership. And I can recall when Eric first stepped out, he probably got a lot of the same thing that President Obama got, it's not your turn. And so he was able to say, no, but it is my turn. And he stepped out on faith and hard work. And as a result, he made a difference and he was elected. And he is serving as a voice. One of the things that I'm probably most proud of is representing in large numbers, women in general, but specifically African American women, and introducing them to exercising the power within. They already have power. And so often we don't know how to exercise and use that power. And so from my Christian base, I find it's important to try to put and empower other young women, middle-aged women, women in general, to understand how to have a voice in their community. And I'm so proud as when I look around the state and the nation that I see a reflection of people that we might have had a little bit of influence in helping to take a step forward and to serve our community. And they're serving wonderfully well. Holly Mitchell, and I should not say that, the Honorable Holly Mitchell, who is now a member of the state legislature, was recently elected to the state Senate at a special election. And again, folks said that she can do that. But you know, we had a stair step and we talked about how do we put people in the queue. And Holly was able to stand on the shoulders of people like Maxine Waters and Diane Watson, former legislative members of the state assembly that moved on to Congress because they had prepared people to come behind them. When Speaker Karen Bass left the state assembly and ended up in Congress, she worked with Holly. She had worked with Holly, and you know this, so Holly was able to step into those shoes so we didn't have a void. And I'm going to wrap up because I know I don't have the whole time, but I think the important thing for us is to see how valuable it is for us to bring people behind us, to have some influence. And I think if anything, in my years, over 50 years of being involved in this kind of area, that I feel most proud of having to see other people to come forward and take some leadership positions.
Right, the image that comes to mind is how Jesus discipled and mentored those young men and women that were around him, and to help them to understand the significance of what his message was, and also what the power was within them, that God was present with them, and how that the investment. And so when we look at beyond our particular spheres of influence, what other Christian organizations do you see that are active in the political sphere, that are bearing witness to the spirit that you both are naming in this process? So we have the Center for Peacemaking and Conflict Studies that does restorative justice. Fresno Unified just passed a policy to decrease the expulsion and suspension rates and the dropout rates, especially of African American and Latino males. We also have Christian peacemaking teams going into very highly conflict areas of South America. So I'm going to begin with you, Trustee Payne. What other Christian organizations do you see that is involved in the trenches?
There are so many. I think recently Fresno has seen an increase in the faith-based community taking a lens of social justice, the inequities that exist within our communities in urban and rural environments. And Fresno Metro Ministry is one. They're doing some dynamic things around the built environment. You have FIRM, which represents our immigrant and populations, and they have taken on as a partner with West Fresno Family Resource Center. They have some I guess health benefit programs that target our churches and our low-income communities. And so these organizations have really stepped up to the plate. And in addition, there's so many, like I said, there's Faith and Community that they've created this coalition of faith-based organizations to tackle the issues that are affecting everyday people in these communities, whether it be payday lenders, whether it be racial reconciliation within the church and the community, and how we can build those bridges together. They're educating our children, providing wraparound services, which traditionally is something that the church has been a missing piece to. And so I've seen over the last couple of years some dynamic leadership rise out of the faith community.
It's great to know that your head is not in the sand, that you are aware of the multiplicity of peoples and organizations that are seeking to affect change in our community as we seek to be faithful to our call as Christians. Dr. Willis Jones, please share from your perspective.
Well, I'm going to take another tact a little bit. I think, Eric, and you're certainly correct, that there are a number of organizations, faith-based organizations that are out there struggling to make a difference and have a major impact. Certainly, but bringing neighborhoods together as a coalition of
Bringing
groups.
broken neighborhoods back together.
I mean, it's wonderful, wonderful concept, wonderful group, one by one. United One Productions that are reaching out to work with community-based organizations. There's some activities that are going on in local community centers, the Hidden Center doing things of preparing young people in leadership and developing their spirit. So I clearly see a lot going on. But I think one of my strong advocacies is to see more individual churches taking a stand, having the voice, having the courage to stand up against some of the critical issues facing our time. There are some churches that are very active and very involved in that. And then, of course, there are other churches, and I understand separation of church and state, and we get into positions where we have to be careful and mindful that we don't lose our standing as 501c3 organizations. But again, you said it earlier, when we follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, he recognized the powers and principalities and what had to happen there. But at the same time, he made sure that we were speaking for the people who most were in need, are needy in our community. And so I would just encourage more of the local churches to take stances on getting out there. One of the things that I think is profoundly important is the missionary work that a lot of the churches do in terms of reaching out and how they're helping those that need it most. In addition to that, there are statewide organizations, coalitions of faith-based, I know you're a member of several of them, that are coming together to try to find a way to even to engage even at a higher level. So I just wanted people to know that some of us are out here willing to work with them, partner with them, and to continue helping them move forward in their efforts to improve our communities.
And you really have those organizations like Fresno Street Saints and like World Impact, where they've made some serious sacrifice. You have them living in the neighborhoods, living in those communities, building those relationships with the people. And I think it speaks to the moral imperative that the church has really transitioned to reach those communities.
One of the church where I serve as assistant pastor, New Life Church of God, we're in the process of collaborating with Debbie Reyes, Prison Moratorium, and on the Center for the Study of Political Graphics, as we look at the new Jim Crow and the mass incarceration rates and the various things that's happened around issues of race, gender within and beyond our so-called criminal justice system.
Is that what the foundation? Sarah Reyes?
No, Debbie.
Oh, okay.
Her sister.
That is marvelous.
Yes.
That's marvelous stuff. Yeah.
So,
Church Women United.
as you say that, Dr. Willis Jones, as far as how do we get individual churches, New Life, yes, and building those bridges. When we look at people who may be fearful and shy away from talking about faith in politics, what would you have to say to those who may be considering a position of public or seat of public servant? Trustee Payne, this is new for you, you fresh. What would you say to someone who's young or older than you that's looking, wow, look at him?
Yeah, I would definitely say consult with your family because it is a sacrifice of time because the Bible speaks of servant leadership. and you really you're going to be going from place to place to place. You're going to be working very late nights and early mornings, and then you need to pray about it. You need to pray to ensure that you're on the right path. That this is not a personal want and need, but the change that you can affect in working with the community, and that they're open to these things. And then I would say it's sitting down with the people who have already walked that road, and seeking guidance and advice, whether you have a kitchen cabinet or an advisory committee. You need to create those things and those systems, so you know that you're going to have people in your corner when it comes time to start knocking on doors, creating campaign literature,
Yes.
and that type of thing.
Great.
So.
Dr. Willis Jones, we're down to our last minute.
I'm going to do very quick. I would ditto everything that Eric has said. The only thing that I would add, because it's all important. A lot of times people come into things that it's not really their purpose or their mission. And everybody has a place to serve. God has created that for us, each of us. But what to me most importantly is once you go through the things that Eric talked about, then you have to really do some self-study. You got to be prepared. A lot of people want to jump out there and they have not done their homework, they have not been prepared. And I think you seek people out that can help you do that and prepare yourself to do service, but then to have the courage and the voice to speak for the people that you said you wanted to represent.
Yes.
Well, I would want to thank you, my guests, for this very lively, engaging conversation, and thank you to the viewers for watching this edition of Perspectives on Faith and Culture. If you have missed or any part of this show, you can see us online on YouTube at knxt.tv and follow the Perspectives link down below. Thank you, take care, and God bless.